Hello, good afternoon. Nice to see you. Yeah, good. Yeah, okay, so let's begin. So, welcome everybody. I don't think there's very many people at the moment, but for those watching it afterwards in rerun, welcome. Before I start the talk, I always like to do a meditation. Those regular will have heard this spiel many times before, but I shall do it again for those that are new. So, the meditation isn't about you getting somewhere or you doing something to have something, but the person always looks at life like that, or the thinking mind always looks at life like that, like I will do meditation and I will achieve something from it. So if you need that mentality, then the achievement of the meditation, or the purpose of that meditation, of this meditation, is simply to settle down, to just do nothing. My experience of most humans on this planet, but maybe that's not true of people listening to my talks, is that they do way too many things and very rarely sit in silence. So it's really to calm yourself down. But I just want to give a disclaimer. Meditation isn't good for everybody. There's some people that it just doesn't work for and makes them more neurotic or sends them into fear or trauma spirals. But that's hard to decipher whether that means you or not, because meditation is also uncomfortable for a lot of people when they begin it, because they're so used to doing something. So when they stop, there's this energy that's like, what should I do? What should I do? Where should I go? And the mind can become so chaotic. When I first started meditating, I just remember my mind being like a bouncy ball that was like boom, 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 boom. And I had no separation from thoughts. So there was total belief and certainty in what I thought. So, yeah, it's hard for you to know whether it's right or wrong for you, but maybe through time that will become apparent. Yeah, and that's a disclaimer as well for all the talks I give. It's like I've not done a scientific experiment and like measured the effects of everything on people. And so you have to be really careful with anyone that speaks about non-duality, that, or anything on the internet, that you're taking it in the right way and not taking it in the wrong way. To me, the best way in which these talks are heard is when I speak and there is a resonance with your heart and your heart feels more open. It's really not so much a cognitive understanding. Understanding can happen and it can be relaxing, but I really don't intend for people to leave holding on to what I say. It's more like pointing you back to something which you already are and not accumulating more concepts. There are other probably more healthy concepts out there on how to live, so I'm really not pointing on how to live. Like if you become a nobody as a person, that's a disaster. That's like personality disorder, that's like just a disaster. It's not about you as a person becoming nobody. To make your life better on the human level, you know, you go to psychology and go to these self-help books, and meditation and Buddhist practices. This isn't what this is about. This is about you resonating with a truth that's deeper than you. But it's not about me being right, because as you begin to realize through listening to these talks, that's what's being talked about is prior to concepts, it's prior to the conceptual mind. It's our birthright, it's what was there prior to you beginning to have an intelligent and cognitive brain, before you began to have language. But we use concepts to point back to that, and often non-duality has combined settling down the person with speaking about non-duality, which is like really obvious that that's an appropriate thing to do, because normally people come to this subject because they're suffering, which is good that they've got to the point where you can't find relief in the flow of life, or you can't find relief in yourself. But often people don't know the difference between listening to non-duality and then fixing themselves on the human level. And I totally support the idea of you becoming more healthy, more human, more empathetic, more balanced on the human level. But it's so complex to separate out, and it's so complex to, I'm sure, not take my words personally. So to me, when I speak, I see it more like a meditation. And yeah, there is wisdom in there through my many years of seeking and finding and not finding and doing all these different crazy practices. There is wisdom in there. But if you're suffering a lot on the personal level and you're really finding there's a lot of conflict in your life, then it's much better to speak to someone individually that can find a solution or help you in a very individual way. It's not that one shoe fits all. It really isn't. So when I recommend this meditation, I'm also putting the disclaimer that I don't know if it's appropriate for you. There's something you have to discover and work with people, meet meditation teachers to discover. If you've discovered it does, then last gates. If you don't know, you can try. But if you get into trauma or really like obsessive compulsive thinking, then it's maybe not so appropriate for you. You also might find that hard to discern. Yeah. So the different meditation practices I recommend is not because I think they're the best. It's the same with all the books on my website, the references. It's not that I think they're the best, it's just what I know. And I'm not going to put stuff on there that I don't know. And there's so many things that are on there that I know that I haven't remembered to put on there, but yeah. So there's lots of non-duality teachers, and it's not like these are the good ones, these are enlightened ones, these are the ones I know. Yeah. So the meditations I recommend, the mindfulness of breathing, which is simply counting your breath. So every time you breathe in, you ascend a number. So you start off 1, you breathe in, you breathe out, 2, in, out, 3, out, all the way up to number 10. And once you get to number 10, you start at 1 again. And when you breathe in, you're meant to follow the breath all the way down into your solar plexus. People maybe only breathe into their chest, but trying to get it right down to the belly. So it's like really feeling every ounce of the breath. What you might begin to notice as you do this is that your mind gets distracted and that you end up at like 246, and then you're like, oh, I forgot to go back to 1. Because your mind can count, but it can count without paying attention. So that's the trick of it. And every time you go past 10 and you lose concentration, you don't want to condition yourself by telling yourself off or telling yourself you're bad. You want to congratulate yourself that you did it. You brought yourself back to presence, even if it is like 546. You want to congratulate yourself, because otherwise you'll get into the conditioning of conditioning yourself into the negative, which is most people do. So when you catch yourself, you're like, yeah, great job. And there is no better or worse way of doing it. It really is in the activity. So it's not that the people that every time they count to 10 they come back to 0 and they've made it, and they always do that and they're always concentrating are the best, and the people that don't are the worst. It's really not like that. But that is again getting into competitive and negative mentality. It's just as it is, it's just doing it. Just the act of doing it is beautiful, is exactly what you need and perfect. The next meditation that I recommend, just let me check again everything is working, yes. So the next meditation that I recommend would be putting your attention back in the I am, or in consciousness or beingness or this moment, whatever suits you. To me, I came through the school of Nisargadatta Maharaj. Ramesh was Nisargadatta Maharaj's student, Raja was Ramesh's student. So I tend to do the I am, and that's what I would recommend to people, actually, because I think that's the most appropriate. And what I mean by the I am is this sense of being. And this sense of being is like love. And you can't really put your attention there, because it's timeless and the attention is in time in a way. But it's almost like you put your attention there and then the attention disappears. There's something beautiful that happens in it. So it's like you move your attention into the I am and then it disappears. You can also, if you like the consciousness one, it's like putting the attention in the attention. So it's like you put the attention in your attention and then the consciousness comes. And that's a bit like what it is with the I am. It's like you're putting your attention in yourself, in your sense of being, and then it disappears. And this I am is like a celebration. The consciousness is empty, and the I am is like a celebration. It's like love. It's your most intimate sense of being. Yeah, das ist gut. And then what else have we got? Oh yeah, not doing anything. So this one is just sitting there and letting the mind think and wonder and do as much as it wants to do. And the idea of it is that it will come to a natural settle. It's like shaking a fizzy drink. And then you put the can down and you don't open it straight away, you just let the bubbles settle. This is the idea. So currently you're like a shaken bottle of fizzy drink, or soda in America. I'm not sure what mainland Europeans call it. And then you just let that fizz die down, all those bubbles die down. They're still there, but they die down. Yeah. And this isn't, when I'm talking about practice, this isn't a new weapon for you to beat yourself up on that you fail in. I recommend to give it a go. If you find yourself getting into trauma or compulsive thinking, then it's best to do something else, do yoga, distract yourself in something else. It's not good to stay in that. But if it's just like regular discomfort, stay with it. Just really try to go into it. Yeah, nice. Okay, we shall begin. We shall begin. I'm going to have to get up at the beginning of the meditation because I forgot my earplugs again, and to get some earplugs. Then I will be back. Tracy thinks there's a doorbell. It's not a bell. It's okay. Okay. We begin. We begin. So let me just check to see the name of the talk. I always forget the name. It's good that I name it because it gets me going. Love is what all humans seek, not enlightenment or no self. Cool. Das ist cool. Yeah. Just let me check. The microphone is working? Yes, the microphone is working. Yeah, just turn it up a little bit. Okay. So, love is what we seek. So I think in many other cultures, you have lots of different words for the word love. I don't speak any other languages really, so I can't really tell you that in your language. But in English, we only really have love. And that love can refer to many things, like I love my work, I love my parents, I'm in love with my partner, I love the way this jumper feels, I love digging holes, I love being 41 years of age, I love India. There can be so many different I loves. And then we can also use love as our sense of being, as our sense of this is, of life. Which is so beautiful. Makes me want to cry. So we can also use the word love as non-duality, not two-ness, as what we truly are. And that is so beautiful. But it's radically different from personal love, from being in love. It does have a taste of it, because when you say love doing something, like you love riding your bike, or you love flying, or doing art, there is a sense of flow, that you go into flow. And when you go into flow, there's normally a complete absorption in what you're doing. And then the seeking begins to stop because it feels really lovely. And there begins to be a sense of that love that's impersonal. It also happens when you're falling in love, because it's the biggest desire of the person, love. So when you're falling in love, there is an intimacy with it, and you forget yourself. You're not sitting there thinking, oh, what should we do, or where should we go, or how much longer do I have to spend with this person. There's just like an intimacy with that. And through that, the seeking drops, and there is the taste of that love, which is grander, which is bigger, which is all-encompassing, which is not two. And this is all that's ever wanted. It's actually right here in this which is being spoken of. And it's not actually in the meaning of what I'm saying. It's in the direct experience of what's being said. So from this perspective, it's in the sounds coming out of my mouth, not the meaning. It's in the vibration of the sounds coming out of my lips, touching my tongue, my palate, the coolness of the breeze, the traffic outside. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's traffic outside. The hum of the computer. So it's in that radical emptiness, beyond concepts, beyond the mental, beyond what you know. This dropping into what's always here. That love that you seek. So what's being pointed to, that love which you seek, is all you've ever been. You cannot escape being this moment. You cannot escape the intimacy of everything. But what can happen is your mind divides, and then there is this seeming separation, and this focus on this apparent separation of you. Yeah. What's being talked about isn't conceptual. So you're following my words conceptually, and then every so often, more than likely, you're dropping out of the words, and there is a touching on something that's different. What is here prior to words, prior to you, prior to ideas? And this is what's sought, and it's got nothing to do with enlightenment or no self or being a good person, bad person, or karma, or prostrations, or meditation, or doing or not doing, or money or wealth, or superiority or ego. It's got nothing to do with that. It is the origin of everything. Like that burp now. I'm sorry, some people will find that offensive. I get told it's offensive. But it's actually in the intimacy of the air rising, the burp, the coming out of the burp. It's in the intimacy of that. It's in the intimacy of what you are, which is always present, which is always here. I'm not speaking about you being present, but I'm not opposed to the idea of you putting your attention, or your attention in that sense of being. But know that that feeling of you doing it is only a feeling of you doing it. There's not actually somebody doing, or all of that is conceptual. You doing, you not doing, you getting, you not getting is conceptual. There is just the momentum to do that, and then that is done. When that is done, there is a relaxing the person, a popping of the person to an extent. And then there is the possibility that something else can be heard. But I'm not giving any guarantees. That could be nonsense. I don't know in the end. All I know, all I'm an expert in is this moment, and this moment is beyond concept, it's beyond intellects, it's beyond anything time-bound. It's just arising right here, this beautiful present moment, and it's not about this way of teaching or that way of teaching, or no self, or there is a self, or doing or not doing. is just so beyond all of that. All the freaking arguments I hear in non-duality, like that, it's just the mind. And then there's this right here. It's not about your personality, but fix your freaking personality. It's only fair to the rest of society. Don't be an asshole. But know that if that happens, there really isn't someone there doing it. That's a happening. Just like everything else, it's a happening. Lisa, is happening now. And this is happening in no time, no cause, no effect, appearing as cause and effect. This is absolute stillness appearing as movement. It's all your mind making up the others and filling in the blank and beep, 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 and beep, 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 and beep, 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 beep. They're all so lost in the beep, beep, beep. The turkeys, the English turkeys, they're lost in their turkeyness. The Americans are lost in their nose. The Germans are lost in their throat. Hang on. This is a little challenging, the Germans. The French are lost in the back of their throat and their stomachs. I don't feel like I can do other countries, otherwise I'll be considered a racist. As I'm European, I feel like I can do them. Particularly the English. The English are lost in being a turkey. And all of them think that their turkeyness is very important. Then they eat turkey on Christmas Day. The Americans think they also do it on Thanksgiving, but we don't have Thanksgiving in England. So we just eat the turkey on Christmas Day, and then the rest of the time we do the impression of the turkey. You're so convinced that that has some meaning, but where does it come from? Where does it come from? Get out of the way. The ego is always getting in the way. The person, the sense of self, the seeking your self-importance, like I'm so important, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. Got to find my pleasure. It just doesn't matter. Nothing freaking matters. It just orgasmically arising out of nothing, just here, and then the person starts claiming, yes, nothing matters, and they take it into turkey land. Nothing matters. They start preaching, yes, that's the truth, nothing matters, and no, that's not what's being talked about. It's beyond the words. Nothing matters is just an expression, like a bird singing, trying to call back to this present moment, which is so intoxicating and free and beautiful and all you've ever frigging wanted, and that is love. That is love. And it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with you being enlightened, you being a no-self, or you being good. Your biggest ally, your biggest enemy. I am a good person. This will be the fool's tightrope. It really will. I must be a good person. I must achieve this. I must get somewhere. You, I. Where does it come from? Where does that come from? Where? What is happening now? Really examine what is happening right now, and you'll realize nothing is happening. Nothing, no thing, not one thing, non-duality. Love, life, love is life. I mean, it's heaven. When you look at it non-personally, it's like this orgasmic thing. In the appearance of time, everything is growing out of everything. Everything is all other things. And in this moment, everything comes from no place, no thing, stillness, absolute emptiness, 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 emptiness. And I'm not talking about an intellectual thing. This is an energetic shift from being separate to not being separate. And it's not something you can imagine. It's not something you can talk about. It's really like, oh my effing God, what? I never imagined it like that. It's not words, it's not describable, it's not in description. In fact, everything that I say is so pathetic in comparison to it. It's like a speck of dust dancing in a massive beam of light. Nothing, 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 nothing. The person, the seeking energy is like, that's the impression of someone trying to hold on to something, always trying to hold on to the past and the future. Me, I exist. I exist. I must exist. Who must exist? Who is experiencing right now? Who is living this life? The idea that it's you is an illusion. It's such a big mistake. You is a character, a phenomena appearing in this in order to socialize and to participate in our complex society, which needs characters in order to interact. Otherwise you can't interact with the other. It's part of our like complex society. And then there is this phenomena arising in people where they believe my character, which I play in order to survive in this society, is me. But how can it be you when prior to your character beginning as a baby, there was life, there was this. Even prior to being a baby, there was life, but you can't remember that because there's no brain, but you must have images or memories of some sort prior to you becoming a character. And how can you be this character? Because it's always evolving and changing. It's always changing. You're rich, you're poor, you're nice, you're not. You're good, you're bad. You're bonkers, you're not. You're happy, you're not. You're successful, you're not. You're pretty, you're ugly. How can you be that? Something that's never still, that's always changing, that's never containable, it's always ethereal, illusory. And then this little voice is me, telling the story, I made a choice, or I sucked at that choice, I'm good, I'm not, I'm good, I'm bad. Off it goes. Getting distracted, getting lost in its phone, I'm good and bad, I'm good and bad, I'm good and bad, I'm good and bad. It's mostly about good and bad, I can assure you that. Are you good or are you bad? You're stuck in that toddler age where your mother and your father are trying to teach you what's good and bad. You got stuck in it. I'm a good and bad, I'm a good and bad, good and bad, good bad, good bad, good bad, good bad. Khaleesi does not care unless it's treats. Thankfully, she doesn't care unless I'm going to give her treats. She's making an appearance today. But you might not see her because she might have disappeared into the bed. I did give it away, looking in her direction a little. And she's a little tired. We went for a long walk today. Well, anyway. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. You are not alive. There is life. You is a piece of dust flying around in a sunbeam. Don't even know what that means. It just came out. For those of you that are watching prior to going to sleep, I might have woken you up a few times, especially with the impression of the turkey. Okay, that's enough introduction. So if you have any questions about that very simple introduction, then you're so welcome to ask any questions. You can ask questions through my Skype address, which is LisaCairns12. It currently has like a red do not disturb, but please write your questions in it. It's just that I do that, so I think it's so people can't call. Oh, I don't know why I do that. Maybe it's pointless because they still do call. Yeah, so please write your question. Then also you can put call me, and calls will always take preference. Sometimes it gets super busy, so it's the best way to get in touch. If you do have a question, please try to be precise. It's only fair for your neighbours. People do not want to have to listen to a waffle. They would prefer to listen to a pancake, not a waffle. But often people on here like to present a waffle. So please try to not allow your questions to become a waffle. Think about them prior and try to condense them. But also, if it does happen and you present a waffle, then it's okay. It really is okay. I completely understand. It's a little bit intimidating calling in live with hundreds of people watching you. Yeah. So waffle or pancake, or just a question is good. Okay. So hey Thomas, hey Nick, hi Hassan. Okay, just go to this question. Whoops. So yeah, so no calling until I just will turn that off because I've been asked to have the sound turned off. So don't call in. Just put call me and I will call you when I'm ready, because I'm normally in the middle of something. And we're not at the same time. I'm ahead of you. You're 10, 20 seconds behind me. What's the point of trying to fix the personality? This is from Simon. If the person is just an illusion. So what is the personality? So to me, that's a mixing up of levels. The personality is a response that's happening through the body-mind mechanism. So the personality is like attached to the body-mind. And it is an illusion because most people believe that personality is real and is you. But it's an appearance that responds from the body-mind, and it has particular ways of being. If you've been traumatized, you'll have trauma responses. If you've had bad upbringing, you'll have difficult behaviors maybe. There'll be all types of things. There might be social insecurity, and all of that is part of the body-mind mechanism. Yeah, so all of that is part of the body-mind mechanism. Sorry, I just got a bit distracted. People are calling in. I'm trying to ignore it. So that is a response of the body. So Khaleesi, my dog, her body has certain responses to things. She's a rescue dog. So most rescue dogs have behavioral issues. A lot of them are aggressive with other dogs, and that's why they end up going into rescue homes, because they have aggression. And that is part genetic, and then it's the way in which they've been handled and the way in which they've been introduced to other dogs. And that is a bodily response, but it's not her. There is no part of Khaleesi that believes that is her. She hasn't got the ability to do that. Her brain doesn't separate off. But it's a response that happens through the body. So the reason that you try to fix the body-mind mechanism is because your body-mind mechanism is like a robot that's going to create your life in a way. So it's going to interact with things, and it's going to your life is going to reflect the way in which that body-mind mechanism feels. So if you've got a lot of difficult conditioning, you're going to have a difficult external life. So if you've got difficult upbringing, for example, abuse, trauma, neglect, then you're not going to have been taught a positive role model for relationships. So therefore, you're going to have continuously difficult relationships. Or you're going to become, it'll be different, or you're going to become very cut off from the emotions. So you fix the personality because it will give you a bit better life. What people like to think is that you get enlightened and then the body-mind fixes itself automatically in enlightenment, which isn't true. It's that the character becomes a ghost. So when you're identified, it's like everything in the person is so serious and is exacerbated through seeking. And then when that seeking drops, then the personality structure is still going to carry on. You're still going to have your same responses to things, but it becomes like a ghost, so it's a lot less intense. So a lot of the time, actually, when you have big awakenings, you think that all your conditioning's gone. I know that I did at points. But it's not true. It's just very much in the background. And that is a tricky point, because sometimes you don't really feel it because it's so minute and you're so like overwhelmed bliss. Like often in awakening, there's a lot of bliss that arises, but you still will have your conditioning. And this is where I think that, a lot of non-duality teaching becomes very confusing, because when you're waking up, often you do have to work on the person, and often as a side effect, you do work on the person so it improves. But then the person gets into its mind, either I don't have to work on the person at all, or I have to work on the person in order to get enlightened. And both are ideas, and both are not true. So you work on the person because your life will be better. Waking up will help with the personal dynamics, but it won't fix it. If you've never been taught good relationships, waking up isn't going to suddenly teach you that. That's your dream. That's what you'd love. Because most people feel so shamed about their behaviors that they really repress it and they don't want to ever address it. So that's not true. I got distracted by what I was saying. I think that working on yourself is activism in a way. I think it's like a social revolution, working on yourself, because you're breaking the karma of your family, and I think it's only polite for society. And if we want a better society, then working on ourselves in the flow of life is really positive, and it's an endless endeavor. Endless endeavor. You can always expand to something bigger. But from non-duality, from the absolute perspective, there is only this moment, and that is illusion. But we live in this apparent illusion. So there is still the playing of the game. But in waking up, there is a distancing from the character. You could call it distancing or really embracing, but the character becomes ghost-like in waking up because the seeking energy drops from it. And it's the seeking energy that really exacerbates the character. Yeah. But it is all illusion. But then the belly gets hungry and eating happens. The dog needs a walk and walking happens. Like magic, we live in an apparent cause and effect reality. But it is illusionary. But most people don't get what that means. Yeah, nice. Thanks, Simon, for the question. I enjoyed that. Okay, so Luca says, call me. And Katie, I will call you afterwards. I see a few missed calls from you, but I will call you after. Yeah. Thanks. I just go in order. My need to express fairness. I can't have any favorites. You mustn't have any favorites. Das ist nicht. Oh, das is not true. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hi, sorry, Luca.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you well. I just had the volume off then and I didn't realise. I just
Oh,
thought the audience couldn't hear you, but I couldn't hear you as well.
okay, good.
Yeah, nice. Hello.
So, I kind of miss the introductory talk,
All
but
right.
I glimpsed a little bit at the end, and I wanted to talk about something a bit different
Yeah,
because when I saw the YouTube clip come up, Lisa Cairns is live. The
yeah,
title, let me put up the title. What is it? Love is what the humans seek, not enlightenment or no self.
yeah.
Um, that a lot of fear came up,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of fear in the belly.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like,
That's interesting.
yeah, because uh, I'm not really sure why. Because a lot of the time, something comes up, but it's like lots of because of the way we think, lots of you could like put it in lots of different ways, and there are lots of like separate little reasons for one thing coming up. But
Mm,
I wanted to talk about the fear aspect,
mm,
the fear, because I felt the fear, especially when I read Love and Not Enlightenment. Yeah.
yeah.
So that must have something to do with like a trauma or something. I don't know,
Mm,
because
mm,
especially in this period, um, lots of stuff's coming up.
yeah.
And I'm having so many dreams at night. Like, every time I go to bed, I dream some like old trauma, and it's like, oh no, and I wake up and I'm like, damn it, I didn't even sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that's really interesting, and that you feel it in the sacral. That's what I would call sacral chakra, like the lower belly.
Yeah,
So I won't go into it too deeply with you today because sometimes it can be traumatizing for people if I expose them too much on the internet. And when we're doing it, it might not be realized that it's traumatic, but afterwards the person feels trauma, which is
oh,
understandable because it's like very personal, these things, and sometimes we don't realize when we're oversharing. So I won't go into it
right,
too deeply, but so I'll just speak more speculative and more on the surface about it. But it will
yeah,
give you ideas of things to look into.
yeah,
So um, the sacral chakra, to me, is about a combination of feeling strong and feeling grounded and feeling like you are in this life, like
mm.
you,
Are worthy?
yeah, you're worthy, you're strong, you're capable of finding work, you're capable of providing for yourself,
Yeah,
your creativity, sexuality, and it's also love. Like sexuality and love are the same. You know that
mm.
like sexual energy is normally the root chakra and the sacral chakra, and that when you really go beyond like just pleasure sexuality, like that
Yeah,
sexuality is like real intimate love. Like it's
mm.
real intimacy with another, like beyond you and them, you and other. Um, what happens in um, life is that we get traumatized by people, and we also have a personality structure that is reflective of our upbringing. And so if you maybe you had good parenting on whole, but there might have been areas that were missing. So they might not have been very good at showing affection or showing love or showing intimacy to each other.
yeah,
So they
yeah,
might
yeah.
have been
No, no,
single.
I got it now. I got it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so then we internalize that. So
yeah,
then what we do when we get into spirituality, even though we're not conscious of it, we actually seek that because it's an element of our personality and our character that is missing. So then we seek to
oh, yeah,
get love. So we seek that in waking up experience, but we're not conscious of that.
yeah.
So it's like our on the
Please
person,
love me and make me
yeah,
feel safe.
on the yeah, totally, and on the personality level, that is the most important thing. Please love me and make me feel safe.
Yeah,
But then on the absolute level, what we are is love. So it's like these two really touch very intimately, because when you feel loved and you feel safe with people, often the seeking disappears. So there can
Yeah.
be a touching on that
Yeah,
oneness.
it's why people like to be in groups, you know.
Yeah,
People love me in groups.
yeah,
I love the group. I must protect the group and attack all those who offend the
yeah,
group.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, and so when you have that experience of bonding, then you can have a sense of non-duality, because you stop seeking in that moment. You feel safe, you feel secure, you feel loved. And then there is a touching on that bigger love. And so when I spoke about love, it might bring fear to you, because in your childhood, and this is something you can do and you connect by
Yeah.
yourself, there wasn't maybe such a strong sense of that, or there was trauma in that. There's all these different things, or it's just a society thing. It might have been something that happened with friends or education. And so therefore, your idea of love, like your way of dealing with it, might be fear. But again, that's something for you to look in and just know the difference. So know very clearly the
Yeah.
absolute love is not the same as the personal love. And
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
often get so mixed up. The
Yeah.
person is seeking for human love,
Mm.
but truly what it wants beyond that is the impersonal love. So it's like in those moments where you get what you want, it begins to disappear and there is the impersonal love. And we get this so confused, because I know for myself, like I used to project onto like awakened figures in personal love, and I used
Yeah.
to project on awakening or enlightenment like this parent love,
Mm.
this human love, this human unconditioned love, because that on the human level was my deepest desire, and it was so strong.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was what enlightenment was, because there is the taste of the impersonal love in it. And then there is the confusion. On the human level, awakening or not awakening, we're always going to seek to be safe in the group and to be loved in the group.
Yeah.
But on the absolute level, what we seek for is, or not on the absolute level, but what we truly seek for is the absolute, is that which is beyond.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I liked it when you mentioned the past trauma things. It made me it made some stuff come up in my head which I hadn't thought about when I was little.
Yeah,
I never really think about when I'm little, but now I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's connected to that, and
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that's why because of that, and
yeah.
then it's yeah,
And then the personality grows, and then like there is this going in and out, like seeking for that which is beyond human love, and then seeking for the human love. Most people in our society, I think, are deeply seeking for human love.
yeah. I think I read somewhere where like it was a video about some customer service thing, and the people that were complaining and going, your product stinks, and you know, blah blah blah, right? They didn't even care about getting the problem fixed. All they wanted was somebody to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. I think our society is deeply lonely,
Mm.
partly because of the way our society's gone.
It's
Like,
made, the way it's
yeah,
made, it's too big.
yeah, it's too big, and it's like broken away from like more family or friends
Yeah,
orientated to
yeah.
more impersonal. And then also because you disconnected from the big self at a very young age, so there is this loneliness on the more existential level, and then there's the loneliness that's actually manifesting because of the way our society is at the moment.
Yeah.
It's two different. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest complaint of most people in society, is loneliness.
Mm. Yeah, I remember when I was a teenager, and I had this thing where this socially conditioned construct in my mind where I had to be going out all the time. Have to go out,
Yeah,
have to go out, have to go out, have to go out.
yeah,
And I felt like, I'm sure you've heard of FOMO, fear of missing out. And I
yeah,
had this such strong FOMO every time I didn't go out.
yeah,
And it was so funny because I hated it. It's like I was like forcing myself to do something that I didn't want to do.
yeah,
It was great, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, then you end up exhausted, like pushing your body too far.
Yeah, I was doing that. I had like 5 million things going on,
Yeah,
5 million different projects,
yeah,
constantly thinking about this, constantly thinking about that.
Yeah.
and I was just exhausted all the time. And the thing is, um, people thought I was doing great when I was like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like I hated it, but people were like, "Yeah, yeah, go on, you're doing this, you're doing that."
Yeah.
And people would come up to me and say, "Man, I'm jealous of you, man. You got so much stuff going on."
Yeah.
Like, no thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. It's what our society respects in some weird
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm,
Gets mixed up with consumerism. Yeah.
mm,
Funny.
mm. Well, I think that's it, to be honest. I wanted to
Nice.
talk about the fear mostly, of like
Yeah, I
the
think we could go into it so much deeper. I just don't want to go into it too personally online, but I think there is a lot of things that you could explore. Maybe you have someone or you know someone that you could explore, like the energy that's in there. You could look up attachment theory as well. That might be interesting for you.
what's that?
It's just about attachment in early
Oh,
years.
like children and
Yeah, and the way that
yeah.
you attach to your parents as well. But also, if someone can explore the energies there with you, like going into it, feeling it, letting it speak out, like what it wants to say, like letting the child speak, letting the adult speak, like just seeing what's in there, like an exploration. It's interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah, kind of a little bit like a psychologist thing.
Yeah, yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, they also so psychologists and also like Kundalini workers as well, like because you kind of like
Ah,
put your attention there and you it's kind of you fix your attention there, and they say that each chakra has a psychology, so you kind of like focus in on that psychology and that energy of the chakra.
oh, yeah, yeah. There's so much stuff to explore, you know.
Yeah,
So much.
yeah, and that's on the human level. So on the human level, we can infinitely expand. It could be endless, the possibilities of the
Yeah.
human, but then there is something beyond all of this, and that is like the end of seeking, the end of looking for
Mm,
something else. And that is your essence. That is that which is experiencing right now. It's not the character or the personality that's experiencing, it's that which is unspeakable. It's that you could call it consciousness or aliveness, which is experiencing
mm.
and looking and hearing, and that is who you are.
I noticed that it's mostly when it comes to the enlightenment thing. I noticed that it's mostly a question of tension. It's like there's a massive amount of like separation and tension in the body, and that's what
Yeah,
like slowly drops.
yeah, yeah,
But the empty looking thing, like that has nothing to do with the process of enlightenment, so to speak,
yeah,
because the body's just separate. The body has to do its own thing.
yeah, yeah. That's a nice realization. Yeah. Mm.
So it's kind of like when you try to improve the character. I like to think of it as a self-development. That's the term I use in my head.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like that process gets converted and perverted by society. It's like that drive, but just perverted, and that's what all the stuff is about.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit distracted then. Somebody just called in, another
Oh,
person.
it's okay.
Yeah, so can you just say that last part again?
Yeah, it's like the drive for self-development, which is the improvement of the personality, is kind of like a drive, like this divine drive, and
Mm,
that gets perverted by society in lots of ways.
yeah,
And it's what makes people think that they're doing the right thing by like chasing the money and stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no, no.
yeah. Yeah, it's such a bizarre set of events which has created this like complex human society and what we're all born into and conditioned into.
Hmm. Yeah, and also thinking in this new way, um, it makes you realize, it kind of lets you see the situation from like a third party, almost as if you were an alien, and you're
Mm.
like, oh, look at the humans, you know,
Yeah,
look what they're doing.
yeah,
Because before, you don't really see yourself as a human. you see yourself as like little me, and you don't see out of that.
Mm.
You don't you don't even see the possibility of a bigger view.
Mm. Yeah.
You're too stuck.
Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. It's like a bird's eye view on humanity.
Yeah. Uh, I want to like rewind what you said. You said something before. Something about the society. What was it? Something about damn it, what did you say before?
Forgot. It's gone.
Uh, oh well.
That's not my
I'm gonna.
strong point, remembering.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you can rewind the stream and then write it to me, and I'll.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good on remembering either because I haven't had because there's been so much seeking going on for me that I haven't had time for like worldly responsibilities, and so I forget even what year it is.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Or what day it is.
Yeah, like it's 2022. I thought it was 2021. Like some like 4 months ago, I was at the shop, and you're like, when it changes year, and it's only been a week, it's kind of like okay to like get it wrong, but like, it was like October, and I was like, is this 2021?
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially with the last couple of years where we've all
Oh
been
yeah,
locked
yeah.
in.
That it just exacerbated it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well, thanks for calling in, Luca. It's lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for
Yeah.
the answers. Very good. I
Yeah.
like. I had this thought. I had a nice thought. Um, because you always call spiritual teachers and things. I know you don't call yourself that, but you always call like teachers and things like that when you're feeling bad, but never when you're feeling good.
Yeah.
Like it really sucks, you know. It's like, oh man, I've got fear in my belly. Let's call Lisa. She'll she'll fix it. Yeah. It's never like, oh, I'm feeling so much joy. Let's share with Lisa. No, only when I'm suffering.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, funny.
Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Luca. Bye.
Bye.
Oh man. So if you're listening to talk, please please don't call. Let me call you. That's hard for me, you know. Okay, this is maybe why I turned it onto red before. Yeah. There's too many things to navigate for me. Okay. So who was it that... It was Katie, wasn't it, that I said? It wasn't...
Hello?
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
It's Lisa.
Yes, hi.
Hey.
I can hear your video in the background too.
Yeah, you might have to like mute the volume on that.
Okay, let me see. Just a sec, sorry. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I called you a couple of times. I'm so sorry. I'm not familiar with
That's
Skype.
okay. That's okay. No, that's totally okay. There was somebody else doing it as well, and it gets a little tricky for my brain.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
no worries. That's it. Really, I don't mind about it at all.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking my call. The question or the dynamic I wanted to explore with you is I can see what's being pointed to through you and other teachers that I've encountered. It's been about a year that I've learned about, non-duality, and that came into my awareness. And So when we're sitting, for example, in the beginning, or when I'm sitting in the morning or in the evening, or even different parts in the day, I can touch like the stillness, that sense of I am. I know it's not an experience, but I'm speaking about it experientially. I know it's always there. I can understand that it, but still the dynamic that causes suffering still is the seeking happens still. So I really want it, and maybe there's nothing you can say to this, I don't know. I really want the seeking to be done, but I still do it. Like yesterday I was a bit in tears because I felt so frustrated with myself that I feel like I get it, and I feel in that flow, and then I wake up, and maybe it's just the mind, but I wake up in the morning like yesterday and I'm like, no, I need to hear this satsang, or I need to, listen to some talk so that I make sure I get it. And that I don't lose it.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Prior to coming into non-duality, did you work on the personal self at all, or did you do other spiritual practices?
Yeah, I did quite a lot. I think that helped for me, clear the way to be able to have space to explore this, address just different things in terms of relationship, in terms of my some habits that I had that weren't helpful, and I worked with therapists, and so I have a history of that. Yeah,
you've got a grounding. You're like your personal self, so the character is kind of like has a good conceptualization of its habits, its dynamics, its behaviors, its interaction with life. Yeah, so that's good, because when you get into this, your personal self, the way in which you thought prior to getting into non-duality, and the way in which you related with other people will be projected onto non-duality. So your frustration that you feel towards non-duality, and the feelings that you have towards it will be no different to the way in the past in which you related to others. But you might have improved, so you might have improved your dynamics, but it will be the same. You cannot see outside of your brain, and you cannot see outside of your conditioning on the human level. So when you wake up and you feel frustrated, or you feel like you've lost something, or you need to do something, it's the same functioning that happened prior when you were with the psychologist, and when you were just out in everyday life, and the way that you dealt with everyday life. And this is the tricky part, because when the seeking gets activated into the separate self, it's like the focus goes into the person, and the focus goes into you being happy in time. And I know that you know all of this cognitively because you've listened, and you can conceptualize it. But this is the tricky part, is that the energy will always want to go into the character. And what's being pointed to, and what's happening when you're listening to non-duality talks, and what you like about non-duality, is there's moments where you go in between, or behind, or beyond the character, and you touch on something which is free. And then when the character comes back, it conceptualizes that, and it's the same way in which you will have felt insecure about your love relationships, or you will have wanted more of your love relationships, or the way that you've dealt with food. It will be the same type of energy that will come up. And what to do on the human level when that happens is firstly understanding that the human level is a response that's happening, which there isn't actually an entity there in control of, that it's something that's happening. So you're having these responses, but in that response, what wants to begin to happen is a seeing and a knowing that's responding to those traits, knowing that it's not true. So when you wake up in the morning with that frustration, it's like what you want to also arise is seeing that that is happening in the personality. The personality wants pleasure, the personality wants to feel better, and that these aren't true. And there is something here right now in this moment that's already free. You don't have to feel the freedom in the person. You don't have to feel bliss or anything. It's just that recognition that the frustration comes up, the ideas come up, the seeking comes up, and seeing this isn't true, this isn't my truth. This might be true on a human level, like that I'm hungry or I'm cold or something, or that I'm frustrated. So it's apparently true on the human level, it's what the character sees, but it's not what you really want. It's not your absolute truth. It's not the absolute problem. It might be relatively a problem, but it's a condition of the mind that's arising. A different mind will have a different condition arising. And then when that happens, then it actually will begin to calm the character down in most cases, and not in all cases though. In some people it might create more neurosis, to be honest, but in most cases it's like pulling that addiction from the mind always being like me, I want. You're like there is relative truth. So it's freezing in the house, then you can turn up the heating. If your partner being an ass, then there can be better ways to speak to them than shouting back. There could be better ways to deal with it. If you're out of money, then you maybe need to go and get more money. It's not saying it on that level. It's seeing that your idea that happiness is going to come from this is not true. So your idea now is that happiness is going to come from this meditation practice. And that's just absolutely fruitless going down that path. So you wake up in the morning, you feel like you've not got it, or you feel the frustration, and it's just seeing the habit of the mind, where the habit of the mind's going. Then there is an energy that wants to come up that's like, I see that habit, that is not true. And then you can then move your attention back into attention, or just in doing that will break something. And then when life is ready, it will present non-duality. It's like, it's like that's the practice on the human level, and then non-duality will come when non-duality comes. So it's that the person is always believing that I am going to get a pleasure in time, I'm going to get something better from this in time, I need to be like something in time, I need to have a certain experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I can just share my understanding just to check it, it's like seeing that dynamic. So
yeah,
seeing the thought, for example, like, oh no, I forgot it, I need to get it back, the understanding, and then feeling the frustration and kind of realizing I've been down that road before and I know that's not true. And then returning to, like you said, what is the freedom that is already here? What is the peace that is already here?
Yeah. And I don't think you can return to that in the moment. Like, in a way, it's already there. But what you can do is you can put the attention in the attention. So you can pull the attention out of that. But if it's really strong, you can also explore it a bit more. So you can also explore that frustration, because it could also, be an energy that gets a bit stuck in the body. Where do I feel that frustration? And you can also look back in childhood, like see if you can connect it to childhood experiences, and see if you can, like, so when it's strong, you can do the opposite. You can explore the sensation, and that exploration helps you, it helps it become even deeper, more deeply embedded in the body that it's not true. So you can connect it to childhood experiences, and then that becomes more clear that that's not a present experience, that is a past memory that is coming on, that's informing you of something that's not really here. It's a bodily response, and then the body is thinking and imagining that enlightenment is the freedom and the way out of this. And all of that is illusory. All of that is the mind playing games with itself. It's not doing it in a nasty way, it's doing it as a way to try to help you. But it's kind of like not very helpful, because it just repeats patterns and thinking in the mind. So you can do both. So one, if it's not too strong, then you can then just put the attention back in the attention, and you just keep practicing that. And then the other is to explore back in time. And non-duality is grace. Everything is grace, but like, it's again language and semantics. But non-duality is grace. When it's ready to come forward, it will come forward. You can't make it come forward. All you need to concentrate on the human level is calming yourself down and seeing through the illusion of yourself, like seeing through the illusion of what you believe you want and you need right now. And most of the time, like, so in Buddhism and in Hinduism and a lot of spiritual teachings, it's like seeing through the craving. And craving to me is the seeking. It's the belief that pleasure is your freedom. I'm not saying don't take pleasure. If you're hungry, go and get food. If you need shelter, go and get shelter.
Right.
But it's seeing through the illusion that pleasure equals freedom. And that's what the person is hypnotized under. And that's what creates this separation. And the illusion of I is all made up with that seeking, that freedom is found in my next pleasure. So you wake up in the morning, you feel like you've not got non-duality, and then in your mind, non-duality becomes that pleasure of freedom. It's a new conceptualization, and whatever you're conceptualizing can't really be non-duality because it's something in time, and non-duality is timeless. It's the same game.
Got it. Yeah, I think I'll have to listen back to this. I mean, I understand what you're saying now in this moment too, but I think I have to kind of see how it unfolds in my experience too.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And you've got the recording on YouTube, so you can listen a few times back to it. And then maybe it brings up a question for next week. So you're so welcome to call in next week.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, with pleasure, Katie. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. So is it Mark Anderson that was trying to call? Okay, I don't know how to stop people calling. How can you stop people calling? Just apart from quitting Skype. I'm sorry, Lisa, Lady Lisa, called Lisa, asked me a while ago to try and edit out calls because, yeah, she finds it difficult listening to the calls, like when someone calls. Yeah, sorry, Gary, or Mark, I'm not sure what your name is. I'm not sure who keeps calling Mark. I'm just a bit reluctant to call Mark because I've asked you so many times not to do that, and you keep doing it. It could be translation, and it could be that you don't hear the messages or something, or you don't understand, or you're new to Skype. But it could also be a bit intrusive or lack of respect for me. So yeah, if you could just clarify why you keep calling when I've said don't do that, and then I will call you if it's not because of lack of respect. I just don't want to get involved in that because sometimes I've had people that aggressively call, and then when I speak with them, they're so rude to me, you know, like they keep aggressively calling. It's like there's this like angry energy in it. So I just want to check that that's not going on for you, Mark. Okay, so hi Hassan. Dear Lisa, I just love you so much. Thank you for a great belly laugh this morning. The different language imitations with sound effects, so perfect. You have to be careful though, because it like turns into racism, I think, if I do it outside of like languages that I know intimately. I think so I have to be careful. Hi Schumann. Hi Lisa. Thank you very much for the meditation. It did feel like love and passion is alive at this moment. Now, a contrast to myself or person which is dominated by mind, which takes life very seriously indeed. Thank you as always, Schumann. Thank you. Elisa, I'm sharing a quote by Jung. Until you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct you and you will call it fate. That's so beautiful. I must remember that. Yeah, really beautiful, perfect. I shared it as it implies that a doer is necessary to make the unconscious conscious. This is what encourages in me personally. What it encourages in me personally. Yeah, so you think that it creates a doer in you, Schumann? So it's just because you hear, if it does create a doership, it's that you don't really hear it quite properly in that instant. It's like a robot is making its unconscious conscious. So it's like our phone, which is quite an amazing thing. So it's our phone beginning to look at its own coding. And then when it looks at its coding, it can begin to understand the way in which it's programmed and why it's doing what it does. So say maybe its coding is to do everything that the phone owner says. So you know you can go to that phone her. And then when it looks at its coding, it begins to comprehend that that is my coding. My personal programming is to be a servant to the phone owner, is to do everything that they say. And then through looking at that, surely that changes the programming, but it's nobody that changes it because the one that does that is programmed. It's not a personal entity. So there is a loop in the programming that allowed it to begin to explore that. And also our programming evolves. So like we as humans are programmed to evolve. So as that expression happens, then it's like it evolves into this miraculous way, just like flowers and plants evolve in different ways. Yeah, nice. Thanks, Schumann. Jackie, hi Lisa. Can you be truly 100% yourself in all situations and with all people in life, or would you say that you have to alter your character to not hurt people or to make sure that people understand fully, etc.? Totally. I have to alter my character to fit in with other people. Yeah, totally. I don't even know what 100% fully myself would be, because our characters are always changing dependent on the situation that we're placed in. But what I can say, maybe what you mean is like, do you always follow that expansive feeling of yourself? And no, I sometimes get caught into a contractive sense of my personality structure in order to make other people happy. And I don't always know how, or the best way to deal with that is because I'm meeting people that are kind of in a very different from me. They believe in their sense of self, and they believe in seeking, and they believe in a personal entity, and that isn't the way it is here. And so there has to be a middle ground in which I interact and not offending them all the way, but also being as much as I can expansive to myself and true to that expansiveness. And sometimes I fall into contractive energies because I feel too much empathy for the person, or I think it's my responsibility to make them happy. These types of things, like old patterns in which I grew up with in childhood. And that's something that I continuously look at and expand and catch. Thanks, Jackie, for your question. You can block contacts. Thanks for answering my question too. Yeah, pleasure, Simon. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I can block contacts, you're right. Yeah. I've turned off the ringing sound for you lot so you don't have to listen to it. But they stopped ringing, so maybe they're thinking about it. It most probably was an accident, but just from experience, if someone really aggressively calls like that, it's can sometimes not be good. Because I kind of keep repeating the same thing. Like sometimes it's a mistake, like Katie did it 2 or 3 times and it's a mistake, which I totally get. Technology is bonkers sometimes, the way it changes quickly, the way it is. But all of this personality stuff, when I share and speak about it, like I'm not an expert in that. I can only speak from my own experience, and that's not studying hundreds of people's and their reaction. So I know that seeking creates separation, but I don't know the best ways in which to explore or do that for everybody. Some people, if they begin to address their seeking or look at their seeking, it might send them into like shame dynamics or fear dynamics. So it is really different. So I always encourage people to go and work with someone more one-on-one and more intimately in order to look at these things. However, what I am an expert on is the absolute, and then pointing to the absolute. And I say that not out of egotism, it's because it's just known so clearly here that the freedom is beyond anything that's intellectual and conceptual. It's right here. It's non-conceptual, it's not a thing, it's right here. It is all things and no things. Okay, so I call Gary now. Sorry, Gary, just 1 second while I turn your audio on. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
That's okay.
Just a quick kind of personal level question I had, which I don't know, you might be able to comment on, you might not, but there's just like this real heaviness in the chest. I guess it's kind of an energetic thing, and it's been going on for so long, kind of to the point where I really struggle to breathe. And when sort of everything gets quiet, it tends to like go to the throat, and kind of there's some movement, but it's been going on for like over a year, and I don't know if you seem to have quite a bit of knowledge on that kind of thing. I know it's not strictly non-duality, but I just wasn't sure if you might be able to comment, because it's just
Sure.
it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, there's a book I have on my website. It's if you go to references on my website.
Oh, great.
And I think it's under the title of Chakras, and it's called The Psychology of Chakras.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and you'll find that really interesting, because it's basically to do with the psychology and the way that you're interpreting the world and relating to the world. And it's most probably also to do with awakening as well. Like, as you begin to get into the subject, then your body begins to wake up and you become more sensitive to the energies that are happening in the body. I can't guarantee any of that, what I say, but that's my projection onto it, and it's something that you can explore. And so basically it's the way in which you relate to interacting with others, the way in which you were taught in childhood, the way in which you see the world, and that manifests physically. It manifests as like energies in the body, and they tend to line up with the chakras, the chakra system. So as you learn about that, there's different ways you can learn to release it. So once you learn what it is and you understand the psychology of it, there's also other websites and books and on my website that you can look into, which will help you expand that and balance it. As your character becomes more imbalanced, the energies will flow easier through your body, and your body will feel lighter.
Yeah, it just feels so heavy that something wants to release but doesn't know how, and there's like a resistance.
Yeah.
A real involuntary resistance, like maybe a real habitual thing. And it's just hard to find good information. Like, you start Googling stuff and it's just a sea of just articles, and a lot of it doesn't seem that helpful. So I'll check that out. That's great. One thing as well, I just was wondering, a quick one. Do you have maybe a favorite pointer for like bringing you back to what you are? I've got a couple, but it's because sometimes if you say love is what you are, my mind will tend to go, oh, no, can't find it, and then it's like a mental thing. But I was just wondering if there was something that you find that helps bring you back out of the mind, and the wholeness kind of.
No, I don't think I have a favourite pointer. Nothing comes to mind when you say it. I mean,
just
when I listen to people speak about non-duality, my heart often sings, but there's nothing that really comes up. I do love that quote by Nisargadatta Maharaj, where he says, to know I'm nothing is wisdom. To know I am nothing is wisdom. To know I am everything is love, and in between my life resides.
I get, that kind of resonates, to be honest, especially the wisdom thing. When I feel I get pointed to this, there seems to be this sense of a wisdom, not in a knowledge way, but just in a just a very calm wisdom, and that, I don't know if that's it, but to me it seems like that's it. That's great. I was just wondering actually about cause and effect as well, because there's been some seeing how everything's constantly just collapsing in on itself, and you can never quite grab the beginning of anything, if that makes sense. But it still seems that there's this cause and that cause and that, but you can just never get to the beginning. I just heard you say about no cause and effect earlier, and I just it's caused a bit of confusion.
Yeah, there's appearance of cause and effect. So if I pick up my cup now, it appears that it drops and smashes onto the floor. So there is the appearance of cause and effect. But when you really see the absolute, or see that which is beyond mind, like life doesn't have cause or effect. There is this stillness, this emptiness, this nothingness, where everything is now, this moment, totally intimate. And the mind creates cause and effect. It's a human dynamic, and if there's another species, they don't necessarily have to see in time. Like humans made up time, humans made up cause and effect. It's not the reality of life. And then we live in this story, this narrative of cause and effect, and that's how we communicate, that's how we sell things, how we trade, how we live in this society. But it's not your truth. It's not the absolute truth. It's an appearance that's happening. So what is your absolute truth in every moment? Right here, right now. And there is this intimacy, this stillness that's conscious of itself, that knows itself, that's love, what you could call love.
It's kind of like there's like a flowing, something's flowing. You can't really say where it begins, like where the cause and where the effect is. Or you can't like pinpoint anything. Kind of makes sense. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Thanks for that.
Nice. Yeah,
and
pleasure.
I'll definitely check your book out. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Take care. See ya. Bye.
Hey Katie B. I think that's enough for this week. I've been talking 2 hours and my mouth begins to get a bit sore. Yeah. And I just see that Nick has come online. Hey Nick. Hey Lisa, just signed into Skype first time in years because I saw you on YouTube and I love you. Oh, I love you too, Nick. And if you haven't heard some of Nick's, I haven't listened to all of them, but loads of Nick's songs on YouTube. Nicholas Willoughby, I think it is on YouTube, or Nicholas John, I'm not sure, on Facebook. Yeah, he writes non-dual songs, I think, and I really enjoy listening to him. Lovely to hear from you, Nick. Yeah, nice. It was lovely to speak with you all and to share with you all this evening. Yeah. And so I do these talks every Sunday at now 4 p.m. French time. It used to be 6 p.m, but I made it 2 hours earlier. Yeah. And just to remind you, I forgot to say it, or remind myself to say that I do have a retreat coming up, the first one in 2 years, because of the big C in France. So you can check my website out for that. That's like the 21st of May or something. Yeah. And that is all. Yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you to those that called in and were vulnerable and participated in this talk. And I just really wish you everything. Everything. Yeah. Lots of love.